Most people sleepwalk through their entire existence, trapped inside a mental prison they built themselves. The alarm rings, eyes flutter open, and before their feet even touch the floor, a tidal wave of noise crashes through their skull. What disasters await me today? Did I mess up yesterday? What horrible thing might happen next? What if nothing happens at all? And just like that, without a single conscious choice, their brain becomes a cage with iron bars made of pure anxiety, and they are locked inside with no key in sight. Alanwatts, that brilliant philosopher who saw through the human comedy, once dropped a truth bomb that most people still have not understood. He said thinking is a gorgeous tool, but a brutal master. And right there, in that simple sentence, lies the whole tragedy of how we live now. We are not using our minds anymore. Our minds are using us like puppets on invisible strings. We have become slaves to a master that never shuts up, never takes a break, never gives us a moment of breathing room. Picture this for a moment. You are sitting by yourself in a silent room. Nothing dramatic is unfolding. The world is calm, perhaps even beautiful. But inside your skull, total chaos. A thunderstorm of voices screaming over each other, reminding you of every embarrassing thing you ever did, warning you about disasters that will probably never happen, replaying conversations from 5 years ago that nobody else even remembers. And here is the kicker: none of it is actually real. Your brain is creating a fake movie and forcing you to watch it on repeat instead of letting you experience the actual life happening right in front of your face. Overthinking is really just a desperate attempt to control things you cannot possibly control. You genuinely believe that if you keep rehearsing every scenario, planning every detail, analyzing every angle, then maybe, just maybe, you will be safe from pain. But existence does not bend to that kind of logic. The harder you squeeze life with your thoughts, the more anxious and miserable you become. It is exactly like standing at the edge of the ocean, trying to stop the waves with your bare hands. You will wear yourself out completely and accomplish absolutely nothing except exhaustion. Watts loved comparing the human mind to a monkey, and what a perfect comparison it is. This monkey inside your head never stops its chatter, constantly jumping from one branch of thought to another, never sitting still, never finding peace. And when you make the fatal mistake of thinking you are that monkey, you lose all connection to what is authentic. You completely forget that you are not the insane noise ricocheting around your brain. You are the deep silence that exists underneath all that racket. But here is where it gets twisted. Our entire society actually celebrates overthinking. Schools worship it. Jobs demand it. Cultures hand out medals to the people who calculate every move, strategize every breath, plan 17 steps ahead. Be prepared, they hammer into us from childhood. Think everything through, never be caught off guard. And sure, thinking has its place in the world. You absolutely need it to build a bridge that would not collapse, to solve complex equations, to organize your chaotic schedule. But the moment thought steps beyond its practical purpose, it transforms into poison. It mutates into worry that eats you alive, doubt that paralyzes you, self-criticism that destroys you from within. It becomes a prison where you exist everywhere except right here, right now. Alanwatts painted this picture with such clarity it hurts. He said most people are so completely absorbed in replaying the past and imagining the future that they miss the only thing that truly exists in this universe, this exact present moment. And when you fall into the trap of overthinking, you are never actually here. You are either stuck in reruns of what already happened, or lost in previews of what might never come. Your body is here, but you? You are a ghost, haunting your own life. Notice something fascinating. Pay attention to how your body physically reacts when you dive deep into overthinking. Your chest gets tight like someone is sitting on it. Your stomach twists itself into knots. Your breathing becomes shallow and quick. Your whole body goes into survival mode as if you are being attacked, but there is no attacker. There is no real danger. Only your thoughts, creating enemies out of thin air, inventing failures that have not happened, conjuring disasters from pure imagination, and then forcing your poor body to prepare for battles that will never be fought. No wonder people today are drowning in anxiety, restlessness, and depression at levels never seen before in human history. Here is the cruel trick of overthinking. It gives you the warm, comfortable illusion that you are making progress, that you are doing something important, while it quietly steals your entire life from under your nose. You feel productive. You feel engaged with life. But in raw truth, you are running in endless circles inside a mental hamster wheel. No real action gets taken. No genuine peace gets found. Just constant mental chewing, like a cow endlessly working its jaw on grass that lost all flavor hours ago, yet it keeps chewing anyway because it forgot how to stop. Alanwatts begged people to. Wake up and see this clearly. Life is not a puzzle to be solved. It is not a riddle with a hidden answer. It is a raw, beautiful reality meant to be experienced with every fiber of your being. And yet we keep treating existence as if thinking hard enough will finally unlock some secret code, some master password that will make everything make sense. But the answer you are desperately searching for is already here right now, in simple being, in pure awareness, in complete presence. Imagine a man sitting beside a rushing river, absolutely desperate to reach the other side. He thinks and thinks and thinks, calculating potential bridges, imagining boats, strategizing elaborate plans, his mind spinning faster and faster. But the whole time he is drowning in thought, the water is shallow enough to simply walk across. Overthinking blinds us to the stunning simplicity that life offers us every single day. The raw truth is that thought is meant to serve your life, not replace it entirely, and the exact moment you stop believing every single thought that pops into your head, something magical happens. A space opens up. In that space, you suddenly realize with shocking clarity that you are not your thinking. You are the one who watches it happen. You are the awareness in which thoughts rise and fall like clouds drifting across an endless sky. They come, they go, but the sky remains. But to reach that powerful realization, you must first see the devastating cost of overthinking. You must look honestly at how much of your precious, irreplaceable life has been completely wasted in mental noise, in rehearsing conversations that never actually happened, in fearing futures that never arrived, in replaying mistakes that stopped mattering years ago. The mind is a master thief. It steals time so quietly you do not even notice until years have evaporated, and you look back wondering where your life went. Watts tried to warn us with such urgency. He said, "You are not here on this earth to conquer life like it is your enemy, but to dance with it like it is your lover." And nobody can dance while they are busy calculating every single step, measuring every movement, analyzing every angle. Overthinking murders the music. It destroys the rhythm. It turns what should be pure play into exhausting work, and what should be natural joy into crippling fear. So the very first step toward freedom is recognizing the trap you are caught in. Admitting with brutal honesty, yes, I am living way too much inside my head. Yes, I am confusing thinking about life with actually living it. And something powerful and beautiful happens in that simple recognition. You begin to wake up from the trance. Because overthinking cannot be solved by thinking even harder about it. That is like trying to dig yourself out of a hole. It gets dissolved by pure awareness, by simply watching without judgment. Alanwatts kept reminding anyone who would listen that the mind makes a wonderful servant but a catastrophic master. And when overthinking grabs hold of you, it feels like you are chained to an insane ruler, one that never sleeps, never rests, never grants you even one moment of peace. But here is the mind-bending paradox that trips everyone up. The harder you try to silence your mind, the louder it screams. Have you noticed this cruel joke? The instant you sit down with determination and command yourself to stop thinking, the thoughts multiply like rabbits. They come flooding in like uninvited guests, crashing a party, each one demanding your immediate attention. And you quickly realize that fighting thoughts with more thoughts is exactly like trying to extinguish a fire by throwing gasoline on it. Watts often laughed at this absurd human predicament we find ourselves in. Wow. LD say with that knowing smile, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it completely alone. And so it goes with the mind. The way out of the overthinking trap is not to wrestle with it like it is your mortal enemy, but to simply observe it like a scientist watching an experiment. To allow thoughts to rise and fall naturally like waves in the vast ocean. You do not try to stop the waves from being waves. You learn to surf them with grace and ease. This is exactly where awareness becomes your secret weapon. When you step back and notice with curiosity, here comes a worry about tomorrow. Here floats a memory of yesterday. Something fundamental changes in that moment. Suddenly you are no longer trapped inside the thought like a prisoner. You are watching it from a distance. And in that watching you realize something that shatters the illusion. If I can observe my thoughts happening, then I cannot possibly be my thoughts. I must be something deeper, something more real. Alanwatts described this revelation as remembering that you are not the dancer spinning on stage, but the vast space in which the entire dance takes place. The thoughts are temporary movements, here and gone, but you are the eternal stage upon which they appear and disappear. This simple recognition begins to loosen the heavy chains of overthinking that have bound you for so long. Let me paint you a vivid picture. Imagine yourself sitting peacefully by a flowing river, watching leaves float by on the current. Each leaf represents a thought drifting through your mind. One leaf whispers, "I am not good enough." Another leaf shouts, "What if I fail?" and everyone laughs. Another murmurs, "What did she really mean when she said that?" Most people are so completely hypnotized by these leaves that they jump into the river and desperately cling to every single one. They drown in their own thoughts. But awareness allows you to remain sitting calmly on the bank, watching the leaves drift past. You see them come, you see them go, and you remain completely untouched by their content. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting. The more you observe without judging anything as good or bad, the quieter your mind naturally becomes all on its own. Not because you forced it into submission, but because you stopped feeding it the fuel it needs. Thoughts need your attention to survive and grow stronger. And when you stop wrestling with them, stop arguing with them, stop believing them automatically, they lose their power over you like a bully loses interest when you stop reacting. This is precisely why meditation in its truest sense is not about controlling your mind like a dictator, but about witnessing it like a neutral observer. Watts emphasized over and over that meditation is not some special technique you perform for 20 minutes. It is a way of being, a way of moving through life. It is the art of resting in pure awareness, allowing thoughts to come and go like weather patterns while you remain the silent watcher, the calm center of the storm. But let's drag this down from philosophy into everyday life where you actually live. Overthinking shows up in small, familiar ways that you probably recognize immediately. You are about to send a simple text message and you type it out, then erase it, then rewrite it completely, and still you are not satisfied, so you stare at it for 5 more minutes. You lie in bed at night with your eyes wide open, replaying a conversation from earlier, wishing you had said something different, something clever, something that would have changed everything. You spend hours imagining everything that might go wrong tomorrow, as if worrying now will somehow prevent pain later, as if anxiety is a shield against reality. Do you see the PA? Turn, repeating endlessly. Overthinking is a bizarre attempt to live life twice. Once in your head where you control everything, and once in reality where you control nothing. But life only happens once. It is happening right now. And every single moment you spend lost in the maze of thought, you are missing what is actually here, actually real, actually available to be experienced. Watts compared this to listening to beautiful music. When you hear a symphony, you do not skip ahead to the final note just to get it over with. The entire point of music is the unfolding journey, the surprises, the movements. But overthinking tries to fast forward through life, tries to predict every outcome, tries to avoid every possible mistake. And in doing so, it misses the gorgeous melody altogether. You end up with a life that was never actually lived, just endlessly planned. And here is the cruel irony that will break your heart if you let it. The more you think about life, the less you actually live it. The more you analyze every experience, the less you truly experience anything at all. You become so obsessed with labeling everything, judging everything, categorizing everything into neat boxes, that you no longer see the thing itself in its raw form. You do not see the flower blooming. You see rose. Red, need to buy one for Valentine's Day, too expensive. You do not taste the coffee. You taste too bitter, needs more sugar, probably bad for my health anyway. Thought replaces direct life experience with empty symbols and concepts. And we end up living in a second-hand reality, a photocopy of existence rather than the real thing. This is exactly why Alanwatts said with such force that overthinking is actively killing your life. Not because thinking itself is evil or wrong, but because it pulls you away from the direct, immediate experience of being alive, of having a beating heart, of drawing breath, of feeling the sun on your skin. So what do we actually do about this? How do we step out of this mental prison we have built? The key is remembering something so simple it sounds stupid. The present moment is all there ever is. The past is gone forever. It survives only as memory, as echoes in your mind. The future has not arrived yet. It exists only as imagination, as fantasies you create. The present is the only real place where you can actually live. And yet overthinking drags you into ghosts of the past and fantasies of the future, leaving you completely absent from the only thing that genuinely matters, which is right here, right now. To break free from this trap, you must grow presence like a garden, not by forcing it with effort, but by gently noticing what is already here, always here, waiting for your attention. The feeling of breath moving in and out of your lungs, the sound of birds singing outside your window, the warmth of sunlight touching your skin. These are not thoughts. These are life happening directly, immediately, without any commentary or interpretation needed. Alanwatts would say with that calm certainty, stop measuring everything, stop judging everything, and simply watch what is. The mind absolutely thrives on constant commentary. It is addicted to narrating every moment. But when you drop into true presence, commentary becomes totally unnecessary. The experience speaks for itself in a language older than words, and slowly, gradually, overthinking loses its death grip on you. Not because you conquered it in battle, but because you stopped feeding it with belief, stopped giving it power by taking it so seriously. You begin to actually live again, to dance with life, instead of standing frozen at the edge of the dance floor, endlessly calculating the steps, worried about looking foolish. This is the beginning of real freedom. The recognition that thoughts are just thoughts. They are not chains unless you believe they are. They are not reality unless you mistake them for truth. And when you finally see this clearly, you realize something profound that changes everything. You do not have to get rid of overthinking. You do not have to battle it or defeat it. You only have to stop identifying with it. Stop thinking you are it. Alanwatts said repeatedly that life is not a problem demanding a solution, but a reality begging to be experienced. And when you look closely with honest eyes, you see that overthinking has one fundamental assumption buried at its core. It assumes life is something to figure out, like a riddle or a puzzle. That if you just think hard enough, long enough, you will discover the formula, the master plan, the secret key to certainty and safety. But life does not work like mathematics. It is not an equation to be solved. It is wild and unpredictable, and meant to be lived fully, tasted completely, felt deeply. And so long as you remain lost in thought, you miss the very thing you are trying to secure. You miss life itself while planning how to live it. Watts compared existence to a dance, and what a perfect metaphor it is. When you dance, you do not do it to arrive at the last step and be done with it. You do it because the act itself is the entire point. Nobody listens to music just to hear the final note and leave. The joy lives in the unfolding, in the rhythm, in the surprise of each moment flowing into the next. And yet overthinking turns the beautiful dance into drudgery, into homework. It makes you count every step, worry about every mistake, obsess over how you look to others watching. The music is still playing its gorgeous song, but you are too busy analyzing to actually hear it, too trapped in your head to feel it. Overthinking kills your life. Because it steals the spontaneity that makes life worth living. It turns what should be effortless play into exhausting work. It takes the natural lightness of being and weighs it down with endless what-ifs and should-haves. But once you truly see this, once you really get it deep in your bones, you can begin to let go. And letting go does not mean abandoning thought altogether like some mindless zombie. Alan never suggested you should lobotomize yourself. He knew perfectly well that thought is a useful servant when used properly. The problem is not thought itself. The problem is identification with thought, mistaking it for who you are. When you make the error of thinking the voice in your head is you, you become trapped in a cage of your own making. But when you see clearly that you are the awareness behind the voice, the witness watching the show, the spell begins to break and freedom starts to dawn. Think of it like watching a play in a theater. The actors perform with great drama. They deliver their lines with emotion. They express all kinds of feelings. But you sitting in the audience know you are not the actor on stage. You are the watcher, separate, free. And when you live from that awareness, thoughts may still come and go like actors entering and exiting. But they no longer possess you. They no longer control you. They appear, they vanish, and you remain free, untouched, whole. Watts also reminded us of another truth that most people fight against their whole lives. Life is uncertain by its very nature. Change is the only constant. The mind overthinks because it craves security desperately. It wants iron guarantees. It wants to know exactly what will happen next so it can feel safe. But the very fabric of reality is change, impermanence, uncertainty, and trying to control it through thought is like trying to tie down the wind with rope. The harder you rasp and squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Freedom comes when you finally accept that you cannot control life. That insecurity is not a problem to be fixed. It is the very essence of being alive. Because if everything was certain, if you knew every outcome, life would lose all its sparkle. It would be like reading a book where you already know every word, every sentence, every ending before you start. What fun would that be? Where is the adventure in that? The genuine thrill of existence lives in the not knowing, in the surprise, in the unfolding mystery of each moment. And so Watts urged us with great passion to trust the process, to surrender the obsessive need for control and allow life to flow like a river finding its way to the ocean. Because underneath all the fear, underneath all the overthinking, there exists a profound truth most people never discover. Life has always carried you. Even when you thought you were steering the ship, your heart kept beating without your command. Your lungs kept breathing without your effort. The entire universe has been moving you whether you think about it or not. So why not relax into it? Why not trust the dance? Why not let go and see what happens? This is not suggesting you should never plan anything, never prepare, never use your mind for practical purposes. But use it like you would use any tool. Pick it up when you need it. Put it down when you are done. You do not walk around carrying a hammer in your hand 24 hours a day. That would be insane. Similarly, do not walk around carrying thought endlessly. Allow yourself to rest in awareness, in presence, in simple being, without constant mental noise. Here is the secret that unlocks everything. The exact moment you come back to the present, overthinking loses its grip instantly. The moment you feel your breath moving, notice the sensation of you. Our body existing. Hear the sounds around you without labeling them. Suddenly the mind's chatter fades into the background like distant traffic noise. You realize with shocking clarity that you do not need to think your way into life. You are already alive. You always have been. You just forgot because you were too busy thinking about being alive to notice you already were. Alanwatts once asked his listeners a powerful question. What would you do if money were no object? And behind that question lived a deeper one that cuts to the core? What would you do if fear were no object? If overthinking were no object? The answer, when you are brutally honest, always is simply to live, to do what brings genuine joy, to play like a child, to create without worrying if it is good enough, to love without calculating if you might get hurt. Because at the end of the day, all the thinking, all the worrying, all the mental rehearsal, none of it can stop the fundamental truth that life is impermanent. You came into this world with nothing, not a single possession, and you will leave it with nothing, unable to take anything with you. So why waste the precious time in between trapped in thought? Why not dance while the music plays? Why not sing even if your voice cracks? Why not laugh until your belly hurts and taste life fully and feel everything deeply and simply be here now? Is why Watts's teachings strike so deeply into the heart of anyone who truly listens. He is not handing you a philosophy to memorize for a test. He is not building a belief system for you to adopt. He is pointing you back to what is already here, always here, waiting patiently. The immediacy of being alive, the freedom of presence, the lightness of letting go of the heavy burden of constant thinking. Overthinking is killing your life slowly, day by day, because it keeps you from actually living it. But the moment you step out of the mind's endless commentary, even for just 1 second, you discover something absolutely breathtaking. Life does not need to be figured out like a puzzle. It needs to be experienced like a sunset, like music, like falling in love. And so the invitation in the spirit of Alanwatts is beautifully simple. Stop trying so hard. Let thoughts be, but do not worship them like gods. Return to presence whenever you remember. Dance to the music playing right now. Live as if life itself were the purpose, because it is. In the end, when you look back, you will not remember the countless hours you spent worrying, calculating, predicting. Those moments evaporate like morning mist. You will remember the moments you were truly alive, genuinely present. The laughter shared with a friend, the taste of amazing food, the warmth of the sun on a perfect day, the sound of rain on the roof. These are not thoughts. These are life in its purest form. And life, as Alan Watts reminded us with such clarity, is not something you capture with thinking. It is something you enter into with awareness, with surrender, with joy. So let go of the death grip. Trust the dance that is already happening and live like you mean it.